Perfect.
Thinking of entering a triathlon with a Hilly bike course? Perhaps you're a step ahead, you already have. In which case, you're watching this video looking for answers. How can we train to climb those hills more easily, better, faster? Well, on any ride, there are three factors that sap a cyclist's energy. We've got rolling resistance, air resistance, and gravity. On the flat, it's the first two that tend to hinder a cyclist's progress, but as the road ramps up, our speed drops, aerodynamics becomes less important, and our battle with gravity intensifies.
So your aero triathlon bike is going to be still giving you those gains on the shallower climbs, but as the road gets steeper and your speed gets slower to around 15 or 16 kilometers an hour, then the aero gains are out the window. It's purely you against gravity. So we need to take a look at how to get you better at riding those climbs on your TT bike. But first, we would love it if you wanted to support the channel by giving this video a like or clicking the globe and subscribing.
Of course, power to weight, the amount of power that you can produce in relation to your weight, will have a big impact on your ability to climb well. But contrary to popular belief, that is not the only way in which you can improve your climbing ability. As the road tilts up, you're going to need to prepare your body for the way in which it will be using your muscles, which will be different from ever before. Now, you can prepare for this indoors on a stationary trainer to a degree, but you really are going to need to get outdoors, because as the road tilts up, you are going to end up shifting backwards. That is going to change perhaps your hand position on the handlebars, your saddle position, and of course your center of gravity. If you're not used to pedaling like this, your muscles are going to be going through a totally new range of motion and angle than they have ever before. And like with anything, a weak muscle will fatigue and you will climb slower. So if you want to improve at climbing, you're going to need to climb. Now, of course, if you are stuck indoors, I understand, that's fine. Then maybe try and make the most of that situation by using something like a Wahoo Climb that can simulate those gradients using a virtual training app. Or I guess you could put some books under your front wheel, maybe.
Okay, here's one that can be performed on any terrain, even if you don't live near any hills. So you want to ride at a low cadence, but selecting a high gear. And this is going to cause all of your muscles to be recruited per pedal stroke due to that higher torque. And it's going to allow you to think about your pedal stroke and become more efficient in it. And as a result, it's going to be training your muscles to become stronger, which is obviously needed for the triathlon bike leg and very useful for the hills. And this type of workout can be quite tiring, so you don't want to jump into it too suddenly. You want to gradually drop the cadence and then gradually increase the duration of these efforts. And don't worry about the intensity. It's not about the cardiovascular system, it's about getting the legs strong, and you will find that you'll feel it afterwards. So you want to make sure you build up slowly. Example, you could start with 5 lots of 5 minutes at just 70 RPM, taking 2 minutes in between each at your normal cadence, and then gradually you can decrease that cadence and you can increase the duration or the amount of them.
All right, I'm going to throw a question back at you folk now. What kind of hills are you expecting? And by that I mean, are they short, punchy kind of hills, or are they long, sustained sort of hills, or a mix of the two? Now, this is actually a really important question, because if you're specifically focusing on a specific race, then you may as well train as specifically as you possibly can. So for example, if you are doing an event that has long, sustained climbs in there, then you should primarily focus your training around developing a greater sustained power through strength endurance work. And this will require you sitting at a fairly high power for long durations, preferably training it on the hills, starting to get a gauge of how that heart rate and power lie, and so you can pace them better. Whereas if your event has short, punchy kind of hills in there, well, it's going to require you to further develop that VO2 that we've been talking about. Now, this is going to require very short, high intensity efforts, again, hopefully on some hills, and again starting to learn how that heart rate, power lie, how the zones lie, and also learning how much you need to limit yourself by.
Now, aside from the physiological training that we talked about and you need to do, there's actually some skills which can significantly make your climbing easier. When seated, you might find it more comfortable to sit a touch further back in the saddle to gain leverage on the pedals. Whilst doing this, have a slight bend in your elbows and try to keep your arms and hands relaxed. So relaxed, in fact, that you could play the piano with your fingers. Well, to stop any rocking from side to side or back and forth, focus on utilising your core muscles and pedalling a full stroke rather than just pushing down. When it comes to getting up out of the saddle, which is fine, especially on those short punchy climbs, you want to think of it like you're stepping into each pedal stroke and therefore using your body weight. Remember to stay relaxed too, so the arms and hands are loose, chin down, and then focus on rocking the bike from side to side whilst following a straight line with your tyres. And the more you practice this, the better. In fact, next time you're out on some climbs, why not practice interchanging from one to the other? And you'll notice that you might need to change gears as well. And the more you do this, the more confident you'll get.
And one final tip that can make a big difference on race day is to power on over the top of a climb. What I mean by this is that as you crest a climb, you continue your effort over it. Now, quite often what happens is people overdo their effort up a climb, they get to the top, they're gasping for breath, they ease off before eventually getting back into their aero bars and carrying on. Whereas by training the climbs well, pacing them well, you should be able to perform a measured effort up the climb as you get to the top, straight back into the aero bars and continue laying that power down. Now, you can actually practice this in your training by making a conscious effort to push on over the top of climbs. I will warn you, can annoy the heck out of your training partners, but can make a massive difference. Now, I'd love to hear from you folk. If you have a race entered, a hilly race, let us know in the comment section down below, or if you have recently completed a hilly race, how you got on. Again, let us know in the comment section down below, and see you next time.